Parents of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing your child has done? Perhaps not disturbing, but terrifying as a parent. We were on a vacation in Chicago, staying at a random Fairfield Inn or something downtown. Our bed was separated by a divider in the room and two of our kids were sleeping in a pull-out couch on the other side. Around 3 a.m. I woke to sounds of Velcro and it sounded like my kid was putting his shoes on. He was. Next thing I know, I hear the hotel room door opening. I leapt further than I thought possible across the entire suite and was able to grab him just as the door was about to close and pulled him back into the room. He was sleepwalking, but I shudder to think what might have happened if I wasn't roused by the sound of him putting on shoes. When my son was 12 or 13, he started walking in his sleep. I found him in his closet one night. He would also come in my room and I would find him either sleeping on the floor by the side of my bed or he'd just be standing next to my bed, eyes open but sound asleep. It happened so often I was afraid he would really hurt himself if he fell down the stairs. I had a friend who was a psychologist, so I mentioned it to him to see if I needed to get him into therapy or have him seen by a doctor. He asked a few questions and once I told him he was 13, he nodded his head and told me my son was probably starting into puberty, that all the hormones that were racing through his body were causing some havoc with his sleep. He said it was nothing to worry about and it would stop in a few months. He was right. 3 or 4 months later, I realized he had stopped sleepwalking and his voice had changed. And I was in basic training for the military. I was on door guard around midnight. One of the people in my flight walked up, neatly put his shower shoes against the wall, pointed at a door and said, "I'm going in there." I just said okay. He went in that room and just laid on the floor. He started to walk back to his bed and I was like, "You forgot your shoes." I think that's when he woke up because he was like, "What the hell am I doing here?" Then started to walk away. I was like, "Hastings, your shoes are in the laundry room." He was like, "Huh," then grabbed them and went back to bed. He only remembered everything from the "what am I doing here?" Not a parent, but me freaking my parents out. My mom used to get migraines a lot when I was little. I had a small stuffed animal named Peaches, and I guess I was scared or nervous about my mom's health and trying to deal with it because apparently I decided that Peaches got a lot of migraines too. This went on for a while. I had to take care of Peaches because he always had headaches. I must have been 4 or 5 at the time. Then someone left the TV on by accident and I saw a news segment about acupuncture. I was overjoyed and went into my mom's sewing kit and stuck a whole bunch of push pins deep into Peach's head. Nobody noticed right away and I think it was a few days later when my mom or dad saw me carrying Peaches around and noticed a shitton of needles crammed in there. My uncle asked me why I did that and I was calm and content when I looked at him, shrugged, and said Peaches doesn't have headaches anymore. Since he didn't know the backstory, according to him it was the creepiest thing I have ever said, like a little pigtailed psychopath. It took my parents a bit of digging to figure out my rationale and where it came from, and that I'd been trying to fix, not kill, my favorite stuffed animal. It was pretty straightforward for them to explain. No, never do that, but hopefully they moved the sewing kit to a higher shelf anyway. I engineered the perfect storm the other night. My daughter was sick. She picked up a cold from either school, or her dad's, or manifested it because kids are germ factories. Nothing serious, just some post-nasal drip leading to a mild cough. She got over it with the help of Mucinex, but we have this thing. When she's sick, we get ice cream. Yes, I know dairy is bad because mucus, so I had avoided it. But after a week her cough was few and far between, and sounded productive, so I thought, a small milkshake, right? That should be fine, right? Except she slammed that shit down like it was the sweet ambrosia of the gods. It was there, then it was gone. I thought nothing of it. This girl likes ice cream. Bedtime rolls around, she says her tummy is upset. I tell her to get in bed, lay down. It'll help her feel better. As soon as she lays down she just crashes, head hits the pillow and it's light out. I should take a moment to mention that she sleeps on the top bunk of a bunk bed. Times is tough, so we share a room. I'm bottom bunk. I get in bed, curl up with my phone, and settle in to read some AskReddit threads. I have an addiction. About 10 minutes in, I've already taken my meds for the night, so my head is getting fuzzy, and she starts to cough. I stand on my bed and try to prop her up so her sinuses don't drain too bad, then gag her and trigger more coughing, but she's not having it. I did get her to stop coughing though, so I lay back down. Then she starts coughing again. I stand up. I'm trying to soothe her, to get her to sit up and have a sip of water, but if you read my other comment here, she has some mild night terrors and does not wake up. Finally, she's coughing so hard she starts to gag herself with a cough. You know the ones. Those deep coughs that catch in the back of your throat and try to bring your stomach up with it. Yeah, but her stomach was still full of milkshake. I tried to lean her forward. In my mind, if she puked on one of her blankets, they're small, easy to wash, maybe 2 hours tops. Nope. She flops to the side, head over the rail of her bed, and lets loose a torrent of Oreo milkshake straight onto my weight blanket, comforter, and sheets. She's a good 3 feet above my bed, too, so when it hits it splatters on the wall, on the pillows, just everywhere. I resign myself to my fate, and gently pat her back, encouraging her to get it up, then take a drink. She was clean, pristine. My legs up to the knee were speckled with puke. My bed was a disaster area, and my head was spinning from my meds. She then went straight back to sleep, I don't think she even woke up, because she didn't remember a thing in the morning, and asked, "What happened to all your blankets?" When she saw the bare mattress, I had no energy to dress. That's just a function of how capsaicin, the drug in chili peppers that give them their heat, does what it does. It attaches to pain and heat touch receptors on the lining of the mouth, or anywhere on the skin, and cause them to dump out all of their neurotransmitter called substance P. Once substance P is depleted, a phenomenon called synaptic fatigue sets in, whereby the body can't perceive that nerve signal for a while. Plus the fake pain of capsaicin also causes endorphins to be released, which your son feels as that glow as the pain subsides, and then numbness with further peppers. He's no monster. I came here in hopes of feeling better about myself and my son, 4 yactoseconds. But here we go. My son, for over a year, has been afraid of something green in the same spot on the ceiling. He continues to tell me, "SHH, don't wake the Grinch." At daycare, he has face stomped a kid at nap time, because he took a toy horse from my son on day 1 at the daycare, used the toy stethoscope to choke a kid, because he wanted the toy. When I tried to explain how it hurt the kid, my son told me, well, he didn't say anything. No, child, he didn't say anything because he couldn't breathe. Yes, we are in therapy. Was having a house party a few months ago. My friends came over and brought their kids. My wife got a bouncy house for them to play on. All the adults were inside eating food and chatting. Some of the kids were outside playing on the bouncy house. I realized that at least one adult should be out there with them, so I left the adults and wandered outside. As I was getting closer to where the kids were playing, I started hearing some rhythmic chanting coming from their direction. I got suspicious, so I decided to sneak up on them and see what they were doing. 4 of the children were holding hands and bouncing in a circle in the middle of the bouncy house, chanting, "Evil rules, evil rules, evil rules." I stood there in amazement for a minute, trying to figure out what game they were playing. One of the girls in the group suddenly looked in my direction and screamed, "Oh no, he's here, run." All the children scattered and ran away. To this day, my son still won't tell me what they were doing. Frown. Due to autism, SPD, so he has a dulled response to pain. One day, I had the morning off and school was on a 2-hour delay, so he went in the backyard to play before I dropped him off. He fell into a bit of brambles on his way to the car, but he said I'm okay and kept running to the car. I got him buckled in but wasn't really paying too much attention. When I got in the car and turned my head to back out of the driveway, I see blood gushing down the side of his face. Not a peep from him about it. He cried about me cleaning and dressing the wound but was okay with falling into a bunch of thorns. Not really done, but said, "My daughter at 3 years old once woke me in the middle of the night crying and shaking. She said she saw a ghost. I asked what the ghost's name was. She said she didn't know, followed by I asked the ghost its name. The next morning, she calmly tells me that the ghost's name is Charlie. It was particularly odd, because she's not the kind of kid that's creative with names. Every dog stuffed animal is named Doggy, dolls are Dolly, etc. So the ghost having a very clear, real name was unusual for her. For months she'd tell me about Charlie and how he hangs out in the tree by her window. Not my child, but a client's child. Before the incident I'm about to relay, she had been diagnosed with manic depression with psychopathic tendencies. Anyway, one day her mom is driving and she realizes her daughter is super quiet in the backseat. She turns back to see what's going on and her daughter is sitting there quietly with a pencil sticking out of her cheek. She literally stuck a pencil in her cheek without making a sound and then just sat there like it was normal. She was 9. My daughter told me about her imaginary friend. Details. Dress color. Hair color. On and on and on. I stood there saying, "Oh, that's neat," at 3 a.m. trying to coax her back to sleep. Then she said, "Oh, she says she knows you. Her name is Misha." Growing up it also had an imaginary friend named Misha. Instantly awake, she fell back to sleep a little later and I figured it was a fluke. Couple of months later mom gave me a box of drawings she'd found cleaning out the closet from when I was young, 3 or 4, and while going through them my daughter grabs my arm and says, "See Misha," and pointed to a drawing I'd done from school titled "My Friends." Same color dress, yellow, same hair color, reddish black. Nearly shit myself. I don't believe in the supernatural, and nothing remotely like this has happened since in the 4 years since this happened, and her imaginary friend has come and gone, but her sister is turning 3 and I'm waiting for the name again. I don't remember the girl I used to play with in the woods by my childhood house, but my daughter had backstory that sounded very familiar. I'd try to press her for details when all this was going on and my daughter would just giggle and say, "You know, Dada, you just forgot." "That's okay," and pout my arm and walk away. My 8-year-old has held steak knives to his neck threatening to kill himself. He's currently in therapy and has been admitted for a few days due to out of control and harmful behavior. Sharp objects are also hidden and out of reach. He was doing weekly counseling for behavioral steps until his counselor quit, accepted better paying opportunity elsewhere, and now we're on the waiting list again. His psychiatrist diagnosed him with ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, and I do agree with that, but I also believe he may be either bipolar, runs in my family, or have BPD. ODD normally stems off another main diagnosis. They refuse to reassess him and I've had to verbally confront his psychiatrist about not taking my concerns seriously because he's assuming I just want to medicate my son so I don't have to deal with him. I'm in the process of finding him another psychiatrist and psychologist. Wish my parents were this thorough when I held a huge knife to my chest at age 9. Instead they yelled at me to keep doing the dishes and grounded me from everything except to read books. I wasn't being funny and they knew it. I literally wanted to die in that moment. They never questioned me or tried to help me. I was in so much pain and I didn't know how to process it. This continued on for many years and all I received was punishment, getting yelled at, put down, and ultimately a stronger desire to die. I look back and feel so bad for child me. I am really hoping your son gets the help that he needs. I'm hoping he values your support and care. My 3-year-old's dad has a girlfriend with another 3-year-old. The other day when it was my turn to have him, he pointed to the ground and said, "GF's kid hide in hole." Creepy enough. Then later while walking, we went past a hospital. My son, who hasn't been in a hospital since he was an infant, started pointing to it and saying boo-boo. I said, "Yay, that's where you go when you have big boo-boos." To which he responded, "GF's kid go for boo-boo," while pointing at the hospital. So he basically told me that GF's kid both went to the hospital for a big boo-boo and is hiding in a hole in the ground. I was concerned. I was a newly single parent, working on a divorce. First, very small, apartment I achieved on my own, Post-separation, I decided to get my kids a cat. My then 5-year-old, who has a few behavioral disorders, ADHD, OD, SPD, PTSD. She's struggling to cope and manage her disorders, so she has to be watched closely at all times. One day she's playing with the cat and I hear the microwave shut. She was not allowed to use any kitchen appliances on her own. So yup, if you guessed she put the cat in the microwave, you're correct. Luckily, as soon as I heard it, I jumped up and ran. She didn't turn it on, but she did find herself grounded, including from the cat. Another time, almost 2 years ago, still struggling with all of her behavioral disorders, I had moved into a bigger house. Safety plan still in place for said child. We are about to watch a movie or something, and get everything ready, snacks, blankets etc., and child goes missing. She liked to hide in places and not come out until she was found. After searching all of her hiding spots, she's still not found. After about 30 minutes of looking, felt like an eternity, and about 5 minutes before I called 911, she turns up at the front door, absolutely filthy, pupils dilated to the size of saucers. Her excuse was the cat wanted to show how he gets in and out from the basement. I have no idea what kind of Narnia-ass wardrobe this cat took her to. Roughly same time, said child liked to draw, paint, and color. One day she brings me some of her artwork, but this time, it is a story, or some sort of lyrics. At this time she was behind academically and didn't know how to read, or write or words very well. But here this letter talks about demons and how lost she would be without me. Some scary, eye-catching stuff coming from your young child. I kept this letter, to remind all of us how far she's come. Hard times do get better. I have a couple of these. Was shadowing a medical professional as a young student to figure out what I wanted in life. A parent brought in their 6-year-old child who became so jealous that there was a new baby at home that he killed the family puppy by hanging it. The look on the child's face when parent was sharing the story was terrifying. He was gleeful. Younger sibling kept having bad dreams when about 7-year-old that were variations on a theme, falling into a large pit, surrounded by gravediggers or demons, and being buried while staring out of this pit. It was upsetting for my parents, the sibling, and I because it was very realistic sounding. False imprisonment, kidnapping. When in 2nd grade, one day at the end of the day, he had the thought that it would be cool to spend the night at the school instead of come home. So he snuck out of line, went back to the classroom and locked the door. However, the teacher's son who was in kindergarten was waiting for his mom in her classroom. My son refused to unlock the door and go home for a few minutes. Apparently, I'm in the car pickup line, so I didn't witness any of this, and apparently the teacher's son was getting distraught. Oddly enough, despite that incident, so far she has been the only teacher he has had from K3 RD grade that seemed to understand him, teach him, and like him. My daughter ran into my room at like 1:30 in the morning and told me there was a man watching her through her window. I ran outside ready to beat the shit out of someone, and to my surprise, there was no one there. In confusion I looked through the window only to see her covering her eyes. I waited until she opened her eyes to tell her that it's alright, but next thing I know she yelled, "Look out, Dad." I turned around and threw a punch, and hit absolutely nothing. She then ran outside with a knife and stabbed the floor and said, "We did it, we killed it." I asked her to draw a picture of it and she drew something that resembled a red Enderman. I was confused as heck, but I played along and celebrated. She never did anything like that again, but that was weird as heck. I have a few stories of my now 13-year-old. About 2 months before I got pregnant with her, I had a miscarriage. So here she is, about 3 years old, and she starts to apologize. "Mommy, I'm sorry I had to leave you." I asked her what she meant. She said, "I was in your belly but I had to go away, then I came back and stay and I'm here now." She didn't know about the miscarriage. One time, I was dead asleep, and I felt someone looking at me. Her dad was next to me asleep and the dog was sleeping at my feet. I whispered out a hello and her little voice came out of the pitch-black closet saying, "Hello, Mommy." The closet is not next to my bedroom entrance. There were a few more things like this as she was growing up, but she's outgrown all of this.